Fame, noun. The state of being known or talked about by many people, especially on account of notable achievements. Idol, noun. A person or thing that is greatly admired, loved, or revered, or an image or representation of a god used as an object of worship. I want you to go on your phone, or turn on your TV. Wherever you look, there are people. People putting themselves out there as content creators, actors, musicians, all subconsciously driven by one thing: recognition. The desire to be seen. The desire to be famous. After all, it's a very human desire to seek appreciation for the hard work you put in. But what happens when it works? What happens when you have an image already established and adored by an insurmountable amount of people? Are you the celebrity? Or is the celebrity a byproduct of what people think you're like from the image of yourself that you put out into the world? Or, moreover, what happens when you want to change that image? Hello, my name is Ian, and welcome back to the show. This time around, we'll be talking about a movie that I only just recently watched and feel a burning desire to speak about. That movie being Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue is a Japanese animated psychological horror movie that adapts the 1991 light novel of the same name. Theatrically released in 1998, it was directed by Satoshi Kon and follows the story of Mima, an ex-pop idol seeking to change her image and become an actress. Though this proves harder than she thought, as she's relentlessly stalked and struggles to come to terms with her identity. This film went on to inspire another movie in 2000 called Requiem for a Dream, and another in 2010 called Black Swan. Now, this movie lies to you. Apart from obvious misdirections used as plot devices later on, this movie is not a movie. It's more of a documentary, but even more so does it genuinely feel like a kidnapping. The viewer sees everything happening with the main character Mima and her psyche, and everything going through her head at all times. It's never pretty, but whether we like it or not, this film holds nothing back in showing what she goes through, as a woman and as an aspiring actress, falling victim to the patriarchy, the acting industry, and even in her own way, herself. The film bounces from horror to murder mystery to thriller seamlessly, all in only 90 minutes of runtime. It's one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen, partially because the conflict is very realistic in today's world, and there's no real reason for my desire to talk about it, other than to share what makes this movie so horribly well made. Strap in while we discuss a movie about being a victim of your own existence. This is Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue begins with a concert by a popular idol group named Cham, but if you want to be technical, it opens with a Power Rangers parody. Amidst the audience, rumor spreads about the lead singer and protagonist of this movie, Mima, leaving the group. Eventually, Cham comes on and performs a love pop song, with lyrics about how men should be more pushy and aggressive with their love and maybe they'll get a chance. An odd song, but whatever. During this sequence, as Mima is getting ready to bid farewell to the career that has shaped her life, a group of men make a fuss, throwing cans through the crowd and just being an overall nuisance, and even starting fights with one of the security guards at the event. We never know much about this guard other than his insatiable love for Mima and his obsession with her. More on him later, he becomes a key part of this movie. As Mima begins to transition into her new life as an actress, she struggles to leave behind the life of a pop idol. She's wanted for a drama series, but it naturally proves to be very hard for her to adjust to this new life and career and leave behind the image she's had for 21 years. She barely has any lines in her debut role, and her agent, Rumi, who also happens to be her older sister, helps fight for her to get more roles and overall be supportive for Mima, despite her overall disapproval of Mima's career switch. From here on out, the film would bounce between aspects of Mima's personal life and how it's affected by her struggle with adjusting to her new career. As she gets home, she plops into bed and goes about her day. Though, in the start of this new chapter, as she took her leave from being a pop idol, a fan handed her a love letter on her way out. Upon opening it, the letter led with a very creepy message about someone who loves to look into Mima's room. As Mima reads the message, an eerie quiet falls over her as she looks outside her room's window. Who wrote this? What did it even mean? The moment is interrupted when her phone rings. Her mother answers and the two have a nice conversation regarding her career switch and its effect on her family. All Mima has heard up until this point is how this decision will affect everyone else. This call is again interrupted by an unknown caller just breathing into the phone. This is dismissed quickly as Mima returns to the path she ran for herself earlier. Though, as she does this, her phone rings again and she is sent a fax. A fax with bold Japanese characters reading the word traitor countless times. All she does is stare in horror and confusion and look out her window as she says the words, "Who are you?" This moment sets the tone for what the rest of the movie will be. This segues perfectly into her next scene during her first ever rehearsal. As she prepares to say her lines, she seemingly gets distracted and a bit overwhelmed by the noise and mass amounts of change she is undergoing at this current moment in time. Her eyes bounce across the room as her ears are flooded with countless overlapping voices and noises. A familiar face is seen in the crowd, but unbeknownst to her, her rehearsal is then interrupted by a large explosion. Her manager falls to the floor, hand covered in blood. She had received another letter from a fan, this time complaining an explosive, along with a message being a warning about something horrible coming her way. Now, earlier on, before her rehearsal, she had consulted her sister about the message, and attached to the message was a web URL to a site known as Mima's Room. Now, this movie takes place in the 90s. The internet wasn't as easily accessible and friendly to new users due to limited technology. So Mima, with the help of her sister, gets a computer and learns how to use the internet. Her curiosity gets the better of her, and she decides to type in the URL written in her odd love letter. She's directed to a site called Mima's Room, filled with pictures of herself and written entries of her day. Today, yesterday, and seemingly all of them. At first she's charmed by it, but she realizes that whoever does this seems to know a lot about her. A lot that she hasn't exactly shared or made public. Someone out there is watching her life unfold and writing a fake account of events on her behalf. Everything is written in excruciating detail, from what foot she steps with first off the train, to the groceries she buys down to the brand. She watches this screen with despair. After all, what can she really do about it? The internet was a scarier place back then, no countermeasures to things like this. It's become clear to her. She's being stalked, watched. The movie's soundtrack does a lot to set the tone of the film, as during this whole scene an imposing crescendo is played that gets louder with each revelation she reads online, all before cutting to the next scene almost seamlessly. As her sister and her manager discuss hardships with Mima's debut role, and fans of Mima discuss amongst themselves how they feel about Mima's transition, Mima is seen going about her life with newfound paranoia. As countless advertisements about the amazing technology of the internet and the ability to make your own webpage is shown throughout the scene, Mima has nervous episodes where she hesitates and can't even step off the train, knowing that someone out there knows the exact order of how she does things. She runs in a panic, no longer knowing what to do or how to feel. From the countless TVs to her mysterious admirer, she no longer feels safe in public or even in privacy. Everywhere she goes, she feels watched, avoiding conversations with the fans she used to speak to with glee. She keeps seeing the same face of the same horrible looking man following her. The viewer knows this man is following her, yet Mima is seemingly none the wiser. The film takes an abrupt detour here down an even more disturbing path, when Mima's agent finally get what they want. More lines and more presence in the drama she stars in, at the cost of being something horrible and demeaning. A rape scene. I'm going to stop here for a moment, as not only is it a turning point for the movie, but I still want to talk about things that this movie does, and how this is a turning point for what this video will go into as well. At this point, I've explained about the first 30 minutes of this film. My quote-unquote explanation still only serves for contextual reasons. I still think that the movie does a better job at giving you a blind experience and giving you chills in telling Mima's story. And Mima's story is told in a way where it causes the viewer, or at least me, to just feel odd, like something is just wrong. The way the movie cuts to different moments abruptly but seamlessly at the same time, showing that Mima's personal life is almost less important than her career. And that is what this film does so well. Every time Mima is spoken about, she's objectified. She's treated as less than a person but an identity and an image to sell to the public, whether it's through being a pop idol or an amateur actress. All that matters to anybody is how she can be used to make money, whether it's through record sales or through her acting and publicity. The way the film is able to jump cut between moments in Mima's life and dwell on some moments more than others even makes the viewer process it weirdly. The way that all media, be it TV, shows, movies, video games, and even some music, cut to different moments in their respective works to save time or to progress their story in different ways is seen almost malicious here. Cuts and jump cuts to different scenes are a staple of any kind of storytelling in media, but the way it's done in Perfect Blue feels almost hurtful for Mima specifically. Like the world around her and her position is forcing her to move on from things that are truly hurtful and bothersome for her bottom line just for the sake of her career. Whether it's her parasocial audience, lack of genuine connections, or personal safety, none of it matters. Because even for us, Mima is a tool, a character being used to tell a story. And as long as that story is told, it matters not how much pain Mima goes through. The show has to go on. Just a quick warning again, the scene I'm about to talk about will discuss very traumatic things such as rape and sexual assault. Please advise with discretion, and if you'd like to skip this section of the video, you can skip to this time frame right here. Mima agrees to the scene, viewing it as a necessary hurdle to overcome in order to be seen and treated like an actual actress, despite this still being her debut role. Her sister is hesitant, but her manager thanks her and is excited for her to take this leap. On the train, Mima sees a reflection of her past self, saying she refuses to do it, being a testament to show how much maybe Mima has changed since pursuing an acting career. It's one of the many times this would happen throughout the film going forward, as Mima learns to come to terms with her identity and this new chapter of her life. I won't get into too many details of the scene itself, obviously due to its disturbing and sensitive nature, but it starts with her character performing and being promiscuous and lewd at a strip club before she's assaulted by a group of men. The scene plays out, and much to the dismay of the viewer, everything is shown here. The scene itself even requires multiple takes, each time feeling like it's trying to minimize what's going on here, as something that's just acting. I mean, it technically is. It's a movie. Even to us, this is all just fiction, animation. It's not actually happening, but at the same time, the way the movie is able to just show Mima's feelings all the time, it just outright feels malicious and wrong. From her character's screams to the noises made by the crowd of male actors to the struggling, fighting movements eventually turning into lifeless surrender, Mima's head just goes blank. Her eyes bouncing across the room again, being blinded by glaring lights and hallucinating sounds of applause and fanfare cheering her name. After all, that's why she's doing this, wasn't it? For fame and recognition as an actress? It doesn't matter what she feels, as long as everyone is happy with her. Rumi herself walks out the room, the scene itself obviously being hard to watch for her, Mima's manager, and for us. The scene afterwards shows her, alone in her dressing room, quiet with humming lights as she sits back in her chair. Her manager treats her to a delicious meal to commend her hard work, and we can see the familiar man once again waiting outside, implying he was watching Mima's rehearsal yet again. As Mima gets home to feed her fish, she is sad and heartbroken to see that they've all died. She begins to cry, a lot, and just as the viewer might think that it's a lot and a really big reaction for just some fish, Mima snaps. As the last constant of her life has vanished before her, she throws all her stuff around her room, knocking stuff off her shelves. She continues to just cry and scream. She swipes everything off her drawers and screams into her pillow and plops herself on her bed. Screams about how she never wanted to do the scene, but didn't want to inconvenience those who worked hard to get her to where she is. Her meltdown is interrupted by another hallucination of her past self, adding fuel to the fire by telling Mima that this is the life she chose, laughing and taunting her. The camera then pans back to show that two of her fish are still alive, perhaps maybe showing or being a metaphor that Mima still hold on to her past in some way. And then once her scene goes public, she does interviews, and her role is the talk of her community. In this scene, as she talks to the public about how she wishes to be acknowledged as a full-fledged actress, her fans talk about her in such belittling fashion. Once again, more moments where Mima is treated as only an identity. These fans who just happen to be men are ignorant to the struggles that Mima goes through. To the fans, Mima has just tarnished her legacy by being openly lewd, promiscuous, and mature in her work as an actress. But to Mima, she has sacrificed her dignity and her self-respect and body to the industry she hopes to climb. The fans talk of her again as just an identity to sell, without a person behind it. After all, it's just Mima the ex-pop idol, not Mima, but that's natural, as they haven't seen what we've seen. This is a movie to us, not to them, but the only one who has seen just as much as we have, maybe more, is that man. Now identified as someone named Maymania, it's revealed in full that Maymania is the one in charge of the online fan page and has been receiving emails from who he believes to be the quote-unquote real Mima and must continue to preserve her image and protect the real Mima. His room is covered head to toe with Mima merchandise and photos of Mima he even probably took himself. The photos of her speak to him and hallucinations fuel his parasocial delusions. Mima goes home after a long day of press conferences and begrudgingly checks her Stalking fan page. It's here when she realizes the actual repercussions of something like this. Not only is someone watching her every move and pretending to be her online, but they're spewing what they believe to be the hard truth, and what Mima knows deep down is a lie. With fake quotes of her crying for help, she yells that she would never say this stuff. But once again, her past self hallucinates from Mima's brain and taunts her, emerging from her computer screen. Past Mima rubs it in Mima's face that this is the life she chose, and that no one will ever love her anymore, because she is filthy and tarnished. She can never again return to the spotlight she once had, and nobody will ever look at her the same ever again. She knows that she is fighting for a better future and a career for herself, yet the hardship she goes through as both a woman and someone being directly used by the industry she works under makes her question everything she now does and stands for. It's heartbreaking. From here on out, I'm going to stop explaining what happens in the movie, scene by scene, but I will be getting into spoiler territory here. I truly believe that the next half of this movie is best experienced blind. But if you made it this far, you're clearly interested in the movie, and I do suggest you watch it yourself. You can watch this movie on HBO Max or through the lovely magic of watching it legally. When I said that the rape scene single-handedly transforms this movie, I meant that. It's a key moment that shows how the industry views Mima as an expendable identity to milk for money rather than be treated like an actual person. From the original author of the series to even her manager. And as the film would progress in the next 30 minutes, it seems to feel that way for Mima as well. She goes about her days adjusting to this new image and routine she has, putting her body on display for the world, seeing all this work as necessary hurdles to become an actress. But it's still evident that the industry and its patriarchal trends don't care about her as an actress. They care about Mima, the ex-pop idol turned grown mature sex icon. It's all about publicity. Sex sells, as they say. This entire film, no one has really asked Mima how she's been feeling, how she's been handling this change. It either comes out to us, the viewer, in her private moments, or shows itself in masked baggage during her day-to-day. She gets detached from her own humanity, no longer feeling like a person, angry at the life she chose for herself, and at the same time seeing it as just a duty she must fulfill for the sake of those who worked hard to get her here. Not her own hard work, not what she's done, but the people who made deals with her like property to get her to rise the ranks of something she thought she wanted. Even despite everything, Mima never knew true peace. And you wanna know why? Because of us. Us, the person watching her. To us, Mima's still just an identity, a plot device, a character being used to tell a story. We still watch her every move as shown to us, even in her private and most vulnerable moments. Mima herself is a victim of her own purpose, her own genre, and her own fiction. That's what this movie wants to make you feel. A character that can never know peace. She herself exists for her own misery. And with all retrospect, this might be an overshot, but I digress. Eventually, Mima's detachment from her personal life outside of work begins to become a scary problem. Her social life just seems to bleed into her work, and both she and us as the viewer aren't given enough time to process what she's going through due to the movie's seamless and sudden jump cuts to different moments. The movie goes from long scenes to several short scenes back to back. Mima's days not only consist of her waking up, going to work, waking up, going to work. It's just the same thing. Every day she goes to work, gets watched by a mysterious figure, and has continuous battles with her own self-acceptance with her continued hallucinations, eventually just doubting her own humanity. But one thing has remained a glaring issue. Someone out there is targeting Mima's acting crew. Her agents, people who simply take her photos, and the original author of the source material being adapted in the series. There is still a parasocial stalker trying to get rid of what they believe to be an imposter of Mima, and those around her feeding into that delusion. Slowly but ever so surely, as her identity has been continued to be sold to the public, everyone she's interacted with became a target. The author gets killed off brutally after being lured by Mima's music. His body is found with his eyeballs gouged out, and before with the manager opening the letter with a bloodied hand. The body of the author is found later with his eyeballs gouged out. The song being used in question was the song she had sang in the beginning, about men who are more aggressive with their love have a better chance. Odd how that has circled around now, right? We still don't know who's behind this, though at this point it's heavily implied to be Animerica. But the next scene changes everything us the viewer knows about the film. As she goes day to day with her work, one night, we are taken to the house of the man who took and published lewd photos of her naked body, Murano. A pizza is delivered by someone, but instead of pizza, Murano gets a screwdriver in the eye. This is the first time one of these attacks are shown to us the viewer directly, and the attacker would be revealed. The killer chases Murano through the entire house, stabbing and stabbing his body with this screwdriver. As Mima's song plays in the background, the pizza outfit is uncovered, and we see an angry Mima stabbing Murano to death with a screwdriver, as her past self looks down on her from a TV in the background, showing that Mima is allegedly not even hallucinating here. That's just her, until she wakes up. What she believes to have been a bad dream winds up becoming true when she is notified of Murano's death, and has a sea of reporters breaking into her room, and then she finds the bloodied evidence in her closet. She's realized what she's done, or what she might have done, because she has no recollection of any of it. She's so detached. She tries to lay low and forget, not even knowing how to process this with the life she lives, though her guilt shows during her next rehearsal, where she sees his bloodied body as a prop during her performance. Now, there is something that I've neglected to mention up until this point, and for good reason. The role that Mima plays is almost a mirror of what is going on in her life in real time, and it is used as a method of misdirection to distract the viewer, the same way it distracts Mima. It's truly genius and oddly meta. Mima herself is a character that after suffering heavy trauma detaches herself from her own identity and becomes a killer after a huge loss. And she herself plays a character in this series she is starring in, a character who, as a product of her own horrible traumas, believes she is an actress detached from who she really is and murder people because of this. It's truly such an unnecessary tool, but the addition of it in this movie and the way it's used to trick you by alternating between the two without warning adds to the brilliance of putting it together yourself. But what if I told you that the movie just lied to us again? Shortly after the death of Murano, the crew is able to wrap up filming, and everyone is getting ready for overdue rest and relaxation. Again, as Mima spaces out and arrives somewhere new, her and her sister get ready to head home. As she heads back to do so, she runs into her co-star, who she accidentally calls by her screen name. She laughs it off and ominously tells Mima there's no way illusions can ever come to life. Creepy as hell. Now, she walks off after saying this, seconds before Mima is approached, confronted, and assaulted by Animerica. In an instant, the tone of this movie and this scene just changed. As Rumi waits nervously outside, Mima is being pursued and attacked by Animerica. Animerica shouts constantly that Mima's an imposter, an insult to the Mima he loves, the Mima that emails him every day. It's an aggressive scene that's hard to watch, with him beating and trying to stab her and tearing off her clothes. But eventually, before stuff can get horrible again for Mima, this time without a camera crew to film it, She hits him on the head with a hammer and makes her escape. For a brief moment, she believes she's being applauded for her performance. Almost our way of being told that she couldn't even fathom what just happened. She couldn't even believe that what just happened was real. But maybe I'm just reading into a few seconds of applause and limelight. Rumi finds her in shambles, her clothes torn up and her leaning against the wall. Mima tries to take her to the body of the attacker, but Mimarine has vanished without a trace. Nonetheless, Rumi just takes Mima home, back to Mima's room, and with the big conflict supposedly resolved, Mima on her way home, and only a few minutes left of the movie, you'd think it's over. But you would be wrong. Nonetheless, Rumi takes Mima home, back to Mima's room. The big conflict was resolved, Mimarine was killed, and now she can live her life in peace back home now that her drama series is finished. But, unfortunately, that's not where things end here. Mima wakes up in her bedroom. She's finally back in a place supposed to be her safe haven. But something's wrong. Her room is clean. It's intact. Almost like nothing had ever happened. But more importantly, her fish are alive. And a poster of Chan that we saw her take off the wall earlier is still up. Mima realizes in horror that this is not her room. Shortly after she puts two and two together, past Mima walks into frame behind her. No illuminating glowing aura around her to suggest that she's a figment of her imagination or a hallucination. She's there, really there, in front of us to see. But then, attention is drawn to a mirror next to her where we can see Rumi, dressed in Mima's former pop star clothes, boasting that this is Mima's room. Rumi boasts that she is Mima and this is Mima's room, even sings one of her old songs. It was Rumi. Rumi was behind everything. She admits to manipulating and even using Mimarine as a pawn as well. Even when Mima asks Rumi why she would do this, Rumi doesn't respond as Rumi. She's only responding as Mima. The real Mima. Let that sink in for a moment. Rumi, the older sister that has worked and supported Mima tirelessly despite her differing opinions on Mima's career, was also so upset with the idea and process of her little sister coming to terms with her adulthood and pursuing a different career, and watching the effects of Mima's pursuit, that she developed a separate identity, progressing into someone who she truly believes is the real Mimarine, and the cute pop idol who sings about love and boys. She had worked with Mimarine, manipulated him from the start to believe in her delusions, and used him to help kill the fake Mima, all who worked with her to preserve the legacy that people know her for best. Mima's struggle with coming to terms with change and all the hurt she's put through wound up affecting her sister as well, to the point where she had developed a separate identity, an identity disorder where she truly believed that she is a past version of her own little sister. But you could honestly argue that the enemy of this movie isn't Rumi or Mimarine. It's the concept of change in an unforgiving world and what comes with it. The movie ends after a hot-headed pursuit between Mima and Rumi. Rumi chases and attacks Mima throughout the city as rain pours down from above. The pursuit ends after Rumi injures herself in her delusions and wanders into the street in a bloodied haze, and hallucinates incoming headlights as the limelight she's grown to crave. Mima jumps in to save her, because at the end of the day, that's still her sister, the last constant she has in her life, and the one who, even though acted on ill intent, always loved her and was there for her at her lowest. Mima knows what it's like to lose herself, after all, and now it was her turn to help her. The movie then ends with a scene showing a more grown, mature, and accomplished Mima. She did it. She became an accomplished actress. She was visiting Rumi in the mental ward, getting debriefed on her identity disorder and how she has managed and progressed in her treatments. Similar to how the character in the drama series she had played in turned out as well. Remember when I mentioned that? The art of misdirection and foreshadowing is so prominent in this movie. Her character developing an identity disorder is what happened to Rumi as well. After visiting the hospital, on her way out, we hear two hospital staff gossip about her, saying things like, "There's no way the real Mimarine would be here of all places," And then Mima steps into her car, looks at the reflection and in her rearview mirror and at us the viewer and says, "Nope, I'm real." And credits roll. And that's it. That's the movie. Ended so abruptly after almost 90 minutes of emotional turmoil and distress. Let's sit down for a moment and let's process what we just talked about. This is a movie that, from start to finish, has lied to your face and told you the truth through a complex, constantly changing and thrilling narrative. In 80 minutes, you've watched a fictional character experience brutal and fairly realistic traumas. Though this is a fictional story, all the problems in this movie are very real. One could even compare the story of Mima to the real life of Selena Quintanilla, a Mexican singer murdered by her fan club president Yolanda Saldivar in 1995, coincidentally 3 years before this movie was released. And even nowadays, there are still plenty of examples of parasocial followings for those we consider celebrities. And now with things like AI chatbots being modeled after real people, this movie conflict is now relevant more than ever in an age where so many people are detached from the world around them and latch on internet celebrities and develop parasocial attachments to those that they find comfort in, whether they be streamers, actors, singers, or the like. There was literally an incident in 2023 where a streamer by the name of Just Foxy had her car set on fire by one of her fans, who was also a stalker who was angry when he found out she had a boyfriend. And that's definitely what part of what I imagine makes this movie so good. The way Perfect Blue is somehow both a caper, a mystery, a thriller, a horror, and arguably even a documentary, all at the same time, yet doesn't feel bloated due to its genius way of telling the story, is mind-boggling. When I first watched this movie, I sat in my seat for a long time, trying to process what I watched. I didn't even fully understand or process everything until I watched it a second time. And what's even crazier is that this was Satoshi Kon's directional debut, after previously being a supervisor for things like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So this guy's handled peak fiction before. In 1999, just a little over a year after Perfect Blue's release, Satoshi did an interview with Animerica. In this interview, Satoshi mentions that nothing particularly inspired him to make this film, but his love for different types of manga and cinema influenced creative decisions he would make. To quote him directly, "Viewers are used to being treated kindly, and so I've broken this pattern deliberately, and I thought it would be interesting if viewers did not immediately grasp that they were watching a flashback or a dream. A lot of animation is very samey. There's only one tradition, one style of filmmaking, and one set of tools. In manga, we have many different genres, from children's comics to material drawn exclusively for adults. There's an infinite variety of subjects and genres, but it seemed to me that anime was almost nothing but science fiction robots and beautiful little girls, and it just gets boring after a while. Sometimes you hear creators complaining that they didn't have the budget to do what they wanted, or that their best ideas were cancelled, but ultimately I think that most of these people do what they do because that's just all they like. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's a little sad. Just as we have an extremely broad manga culture with an infinite variety of subjects and genres, the same should be true of animation. That's why I tried deliberately to handle Perfect Blue from a different point of view. I was given 3 keywords of idol, horror, and fan, and complete freedom as a director as long as I stuck to these overarching themes. It's the difficulty of figuring it out that is the core of the film. If you saw the film many times in order to distinguish between objective reality and the main character's subjective experience, I think the film's flavor would disappear. So long as you accept it's meant to be inexplicable, that's fine. I think that's a problem everybody has, male or female, famous or anonymous. I mean, there's an age gap between the image people see of me and what I see myself. Perfect Blue is about the idea of the gap becoming too large. This whole issue of Animerica was very fascinating to read during my research of this film's creative process, so I'm going to leave it down in the description for those who might want to read it as well. I think it's a very fascinating read, hearing his insight and input on what makes this film so special to him, and Satoshi's takes on multimedia and the themes he himself portrayed are very interesting. Like Satoshi himself confirms, Mima is only the main character because he felt that the main character being a cute girl would appeal more to audiences, further contributing to the film's overarching conflict of treating Mima as an identity to sell to the public rather than an actual person. To close out this video, which is already probably long enough, I think Perfect Blue is seriously an underrated masterpiece of storytelling and succeeds a lot better in its medium compared to a lot of works today. The irony of this movie being an adaptation of a novel where a character plays a role in a series that is also adapted from a novel where the character plays is indirectly an adaptation of the exact same thing happening in her real life is really interesting. And considering this movie was never meant to be explained or make sense, and I've sat here writing this script for days in my local Dunkin' Donuts and talking myself to an audience of like 10 people and still managed to leave stuff out, that truly speaks volumes, I think. The purpose of this video was honestly just to share a movie that I really enjoyed and hope to spread so other people can also enjoy it. I promise you, even if you've made it to the end of this video and haven't seen the movie, watch it anyway. My amateur explanation still serves very little justice to the film itself. I also just believe that the way art is treated nowadays with AI, and shows in movies feel like they're made mostly for money and no longer for a love of their craft, filled me with some nostalgia for movies so carefully crafted like this. They truly just don't make them like this anymore. But that's about it, honestly. You know, almost 6,000 words later, I still really want to talk about this more, but I'm sure the video is long enough as is. We've got a long new year ahead of us. Thank you all for watching. If you've kept up with me on my socials, you know that part of the reason this took so long is because my computer was actually in the repair shop, and I couldn't work on this for about a few weeks. And now that I'm back, the first thing I started doing was worked on this. And I also was writing other scripts during that time. So thankfully, video production is going to be a bit easier going forward because I've written a lot of material. But that's about it. You know, I love movies like this. And more importantly, I love you. So thank you for watching. Make sure you guys stay safe, stay warm, stay fed, and stay loved. That's it for now, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you all, and take care. Bit of an added detail here. If you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, you'll know that I'm currently accepting commissions for charity. In January, during the time I couldn't work on this video, I was able to raise $60 for the Trans Lifeline, and this month we are working on the Trevor Project, and even though the month is still on its way out, there's still time. So if you'd like to request a commission, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And next month we'll actually be doing a charity for False Feminista. I have about 12 months of charities picked out, and I really would love to do this because it really means a lot to me in the climate of the world we live in right now. But also, if you're still listening to this, currently a new video on the gaming channel was just uploaded. E&O Store, go subscribe there for some gaming stuff on the side. I'm trying to practice consistency, and I really am serious about making this the year that I put all my effort into being a content creator. That's about it. Bye for real. Love you guys. Take care and have a nice day.